Knightdale to see this change and long time coming, way overdue, obviously, but I just think the storytelling is richer for it. I think Netflix is giving a platform for something like the 40-year-old version to exist and to be made. And I'm definitely in a weird bubble over here in England whereby, well, with just being far away and also my career's in a little bit of a standstill right now, not just COVID related, but I'm now the primary caretaker for my 2-year-old at the moment. So I like things will pop up on Netflix and I'll be like, wait, what? When was this made? How did this get made? This is amazing. So I'm sure you guys have Alva, you probably have lots of stories of how some of these things are getting made or not made, or the calls you're getting as a rep, how different that might be from a few years ago even. But it's been wonderful and really inspiring to see. And I decided for a lot more than 2021 and beyond. I think my favorites right now, honestly, like there's a lot of darker stuff we've consumed, and so I'm late to coming to Schitt's Creek, so thank God for Schitt's Creek. Like it just makes me smile, just makes me so happy. And we're only halfway through, so I know we've got a lot more good stuff to go. But so we'll watch something like The Boys, and I'll be like, and then I'll put on Schitt's Creek and be like, yeah, it's such a good show. I almost everything I watch is great for a reason or another. Or I find something to really respond to in it. Like I would never watch The Boys, and yet all my angst about America like sort of got to explode onto the screen with The Boys. So yeah, I just feel like creatively I'm expanding my own self as well, watching all these things, because I think I realized I was a little bit narrow in my own viewing, and now I've just been like, just bring it. Let me just get it up. So I don't think I answered your question.
I mean, sort of. I mean, what are some great things you've seen or read or listened to?
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, there you go.
Normal people.
Yeah. That's great. I love the show. I got into it too. That's great. Alex, what are you watching? Have you seen anything?
Well, first of all, I have to think kind of a story redemption. I feel like that's actually really strong moment where Cluey's having a side mix that culturally, I was reading that chess sales are up, Wilson chess sales up, chess.com, massive influx of new users, and I'm sure it's not the last.
What are these?
Movies and TV projects that for years I've been wanting to do a story in chess. Right? So look at art, like nobody's interested, nobody cares. I'm like, yeah, now 2021, I'm going to sell this. Definitely that's the one that have long legs in terms of television. Somebody's actually mentioned The Great, which is something that I've discovered this year, and talk about like something as a writer where you just go, oh man, that is so deliciously written. And Hamilton as a was like Russian history, which is utterly anachronistic, utterly irreverent, yet is so utterly enjoyable that his career redefines the process as it used to hold, and where the writer is the star of the show. I just loved it, and cannot wait for season 2. I think Trey mentioned it, or did Australia so well. I guess again, the trend is the stories that if you're going to be like, oh yeah, no way in the world. Hearing a story about this alcoholic drug addict.
Okay, so you're going to be blue.
Tell you their female chess player, or this young woman in trying to cure what
You are Chaplin, kind of. You're sort of black.
Like money heist. No. And what is clear is, I feel like the weird and unique
So you're also kind of a chaplain character.
And in terms of books, actually, there's a series that I've been following. Post Game of Thrones. I was hungry for another.
I don't know what the fuck this is.
And I don't know if you guys read Joe Abercrombie, British writer. He created something called the First Law Universe.
Okay, you're blue.
And it is freaking good, man. It's really, really awesome. So, kind of begins to Game of Thrones, the sort of medieval style fantasy, but
Okay.
people just
You
came
guys are
out
blue, you
and
guys are
it
blue.
goes into what if more of the Game of Thrones developed technology, so now we're in the Victorian age, and he's doing his homage to Dickens and all the twist and all that stuff. Medieval British writer. Actually, there's a series that I've been following. Post Game of Thrones. I'm just hungry for another fantasy series. And I don't know if you guys read Joe Abercrombie, a British writer. He created something called the First Law Universe. And it is freaking good, man. It's really, really awesome. So, kind of begins to Game of Thrones, sort of medieval style fantasy, but people just came out and it just goes into what if more of the Game of Thrones developed technology, so now we're in the Victorian age, and he's doing his homage to Dickens and all the twists and all that stuff. It is really, really good. I'm just absolutely enjoying the series, and to anybody who is saying, "Oh, Game of Thrones never read its course," what's another series I can read, and you're in the territory that does something unique. I highly recommend that.
Great. And last, Paul, what have you seen, read, listened to this year that you found absolutely amazing?
For me, we already talked about it. When I discovered the last of this year, it was perfect timing because it was one of my darker valleys of 2020, and it came on. Somebody said, "You should watch the show," and they told me just because I'm a football soccer fan, and it filled me with so much joy because there were no real tropes, there were no villains, it was like, yes, you can be a decent human being, and you can have stories with decent human characters, and it's still funny, and it's just, I can go on. I loved Princess Penny's Uncorked. If anyone saw that, it was this little film he made for Netflix, and I thought it was really lovely. That was funny. It really helped me. My second favorite television show of all time ended in 2020, and beautifully I saw BoJack Horseman. That show. I don't think there is a more accurate take on our history of screen than BoJack Horseman. Documentaries that I love. The year started off so optimistic for me with Tiger King. I mean, come on. Do we remember when we thought that was as crazy as anything could possibly get? Remember when we felt that way for 5 seconds? I love that. I loved Michelle McNamara's I'll Be Gone in the Dark. That was a beautifully done documentary on human mind. And and the thing I just saw recently, as far as I get inspired by actors a lot. And things that designers inspire me. And I just saw last week's Sound of Metal, and Riz Ahmed performance in that, to me, I haven't seen anything that comes close to that in a long, long time. Just watching that film just for his performance alone, it was staggering to me. And I'm a huge music fan, so there was that. But it's just beautifully done. Highly recommend. Book-wise, I just finished reading Interior Chinatown, Carl Jung book, which is fantastic in just the way it's written, because it's a novel, it's a screenplay, it's a memoir, it's a poem, it's hilarious. All open the world up to me, like somebody else was saying earlier about how we're experiencing these different cultures in the world, thankfully, finally. And Interior Chinatown is this novel that it's
like to see, both in the industry and just in general. I wanted to jump back to Ava really quickly, and a lot of people in the panel were talking about wanting to get away, wanting to an escape from COVID. But I know also that a lot of, Lindsay brought it up as well, a lot of great stories coming from this pandemic, and not necessarily just about the pandemic, although a lot of people didn't have time to write stuff, but specifically also about the pandemic. After 9/11, you have great films after any sort of moment in history that affects so many people. You're going to have great stories. So I want to ask Ava, I'm sure you've seen them already. I'm sure they're coming across your desk. I'm sure they're being emailed to you incessantly. When do you think, for those writers out there who are pounding with their keyboards, their experience during COVID or their great story about COVID, when is too soon? I heard a story, and I don't know how true it was, that Shameless, this season of Shameless, actually is the first to deal with COVID. So I want to ask, Ava, what your thoughts are on writers out there who are writing stories about COVID.
I don't know. I think I put out the first week of, maybe the second week of March.
I remember that tweet.
Like, do not write a pandemic plague show or movie. I don't want to see it. Nobody wants to see it. I think that's still mostly true. I think, I think for me, what's been interesting and where I haven't seen anything specifically pandemic-y on my desk, and I don't really want to. What I'm more interested in, what I do think I've seen clients do and other writers do, is address the themes that have resonated to them during this pandemic. The emotional things, the existential elements, the relationship elements, and stuff like that. So it's not about, sitting at home and finding love between balconies or something, like there have been some of those out there. That's not of interest to me. But I've read some scripts that, really delve into some dark terrain or some really emotional ones and resonate in a way that's, I think, more universal and frankly makes it more timeless. That to me is just much more compelling and interesting, and that's also much more human and more broadly relatable because one person's experience here, just even my experience in LA is going to be different than Huntington Beach, right? It's going to be just a little bit different. Let alone Florida, let alone other places around the world. So I think it's too narrow to write something just about your own maybe solo experience in that way, which is another reason why I wouldn't recommend doing it. But yeah, no, I mean, like, one of the favorite scripts I read from a client this year was a client who was watching all the Charlie Brown specials this summer with his now 4-year-old and realizing just how awful everybody was to Charlie Brown and just how terrible they all are. And just like, not having watched it since he was a kid. And so he got inspired all of a sudden, sent the script, and I just was so enthralled by it. But it was basically kind of applying the big chill to Charlie Brown. And it's all it's the adult Peanuts characters who all come together after Charlie Brown has just committed suicide. And it's fucked up, and it's dark, and it's weird, and I freaking loved it. And I'm so excited to start sharing this with people, with the thematics of it, and it's just so emotionally resonant. And it's play, I mean, it's not something that might ever get made, but it's just one of those calling card type of scripts that he's needed, one of those maybe, it's been maybe a year or two, maybe 2 years since he's had one. So, but like, to me, that's what's interesting. And he's written 2 other things since then that have also these resonating emotional thematics in different worlds and scopes. And I think that's where our artists are capitalizing.
Okay, so now things that we'd all like to see in 2021, not predictions, but just things that in an ideal world you would like to see, both in the industry and just in general. I'm going to start with Drew. What would you like to see in 2021, sir?
Worried that you were going to start with me. I mean, God.
I can come back to you.
No, I mean, I think the things I'd like to see are honestly just normalcy. I'm desperate for, like, I a lot of the stuff I write is geopolitical, and I can't, like, it's have to just step away from it. So I've stepped away from it. So like normal suit would be nice. Just I didn't have to have 2 bourbons before bed every night. That'd be fantastic.
Trey, what do you want to see in 2021?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, some semblance of peace inside the Republic. Specific to the industry, I'll tell you one thing I'd like to see because it impacts all of us. Look, I'm a writer by trade, but I'm an avocational performer and a member of SAG-AFTRA. And the fact that they have dropped 3,500 of their performers and 2,800 of their dependents off of the SAG-AFTRA healthcare plan is just completely reprehensible in every way. And it worries me as someone who has just gotten a wife through a bone marrow transplant and leukemia treatments, all of which are grossly expensive and none of which would have been possible without the thankful solvency of the PWGA health plan. It worries me when I see any of our trade unions in this town treating their members that way because it sends a message to all the others that that's an acceptable practice. And so I know there's a class action suit that has been filed. I would really like to see that decision re-examined and for those folks to keep their health care. In the broader sense, of course, I want us all to have health care in this country. It's unimaginable that this is not a guarantee for us, but I'll try and avoid the larger political dialogue. It's just something that this is a very small town, right? I grew up in a small town, but I always say to my FC students, there's no smaller town than Hollywood. But yeah, what impacts SAG impacts all the rest of us and vice versa. And so that's something that I would like to see change.
Well, but Trump has the best plan, right? Who knew it was this complicated?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I don't want to push Drew back to the bourbon this early. It's not noon yet. So.
Okay. Lindsay, what would you like to see in 2021?
Well, I mean, other than the vaccine and yes, Trump out and all that good stuff, I think in our business, I want to see what we were talking about before, the trend, not be a trend, but I want to see these diverse stories continue. Particularly, I'd like to see more women behind the camera. It's, we still have a long way to go. We still need more female storytellers. So it's great to see more females starring in things and diverse females at that. But yeah, I still want to see more of my female compatriots writing and directing. Personally, for myself, I just want to get more creative. I think I've been in a little bit of a paralyzed rut with COVID and just for a few other creative reasons. And so for myself, I'm setting that goal just to say F it and let it all come out. So yeah, hopefully some good things for myself as well. But yeah, no, I really, it's been a strange year. Everyone's cut off. People are struggling emotionally and mentally and financially. And I just hope that there's a lot of hope to be had in 2021. And unfortunately, I have to run. I've got a 6-year-old screaming up there. So sorry to go. No, but it's really good to see everybody in Los Angeles. Say hi to Cole. I miss you guys.
Good to see you, Lindsay.
A lot. And just everybody, it's just good to see you. Happy holidays.
Happy New Year. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay. Alex, I got to you. Yeah, no, I didn't get to you. No, I didn't get to you. Alex. Things you'd like to see in 2021.
Familiar in the sense that you know what it
So look, I don't want to in any way sound ageist, but the geezers in today's movie are pretty hardcore. Howdy, I'm Jeff Goldsmith, and this is the Q&A. My agenda is simple. Each week I plan to bring you in-depth insights into the creative process of storytelling. Folks, we have a great lineup for today's film, The Old Guard, and it includes comics books creator Greg Rucka, and it's also his debut screenplay made into a feature film, so that's pretty cool as well. And the film's director, Gina Prince Blythewood. So, look, they make a great team, as you're about to see, and this movie is really well written, and it's an entertaining action movie that I wish was for all ages. I guess that's one complaint. It's so violent that it had to be made rated R. And that was the one question I didn't get a chance to ask them. Could there ever have been a PG-13 version of this? I don't know. I think if you eliminate some of the headshot kills that are gory, maybe. But I understand why it's R-rated, and I do appreciate the world having a place for R-rated comic book movies. But Gina and Greg were a great interview and had a lot of very interesting things to say about making this film that I highly recommend you watch. Because you can watch it right now. It's in your pocket probably. It's on Netflix. So make sure to check out The Old Guard and then listen to our episode because you're really going to enjoy it. And speaking of things to dig, I hope while you're surfing around online, you check out Backstory Magazine over at backstory.net. You know, it's a strange time without movies in theaters, but we are still working forward on publishing issue 42, if you could believe it, our 42nd issue, and it's going to have a great quarantine read for you. If you subscribe, you can read all of our archive, which goes back about a year and a half. We're adding stuff further back in time to it, and you'll get the ability to read anything new in the month. So you'll be in place when issue 42 finally comes out. And your support would mean everything to us. As a reward to you for supporting us, of course, I encourage you to use coupon code SAVE5. It'll save you $5 off your subscription over at backstory.net. You could use it in the checkout carts when you're checking out. It won't work in the iPad. It'll only work at backstory.net. But don't worry, if you really want to use our iPad app, you could get your subscription at backstory.net and then use those credentials to log in on an iPad. So we're all set. Also, if you've never read us, I encourage you to do so. You can read issue 37, our Avengers Endgame issue. It's completely free, so you can test drive us. You can see what we're all about. So your support means everything, and I would greatly appreciate it. Obviously, if you're seeing this podcast for the first time on YouTube, it's kind of new for us to be on YouTube, the Backstory Magazine YouTube page. But you can also find a ton of other interviews at the Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith podcast via iTunes or Spotify. So it's kind of weird being in 3 places at once, but kind of cool. And it's something new that we've adapted to during these strange pandemic times. But now, without any further ado, let's jump right into our conversation with comic book creator and screenwriter Greg Rucka and director Gina Prince Blythewood about their feature film, The Old Guard. Gina, Greg, it's great to have you guys with us, and I absolutely love The Old Guard. So congrats on a great comic book adaptation, both of you.
Love it.
Thank you. It's always fun to start with breaking in stories. So just kind of like really kind of the first time you got paid for it. So Gina, I know you come from TV as your earliest work, and A Different World was kind of where you got your start as a writer. And tell me what was the biggest eye-opening part of that experience that helped you learn your craft?
I was blessed that was my first job. I got it right out of college, right out of film school. It was my favorite show. So to be able to go from, watching Dwayne and Whitley to suddenly writing for Dwayne and Whitley was pretty amazing. It was run by Black women, Susan Tales Hill, Debbie Allen, Yvette Lee Bowser. So on my first job in Hollywood, every day I'm going to that environment, and that was my normal, which absolutely I know influenced me. And most importantly, a young man named Reggie Rothbite was hired a week after I was, and we clicked immediately and became best friends, and 6 years later got married. So it was a very influential experience. I learned so much. I think the best lesson I learned is the grind. Yvette Lee Bowser took me under her wing and really taught me the way for longevity is to make yourself invaluable. And so that means being first
That's awesome. Greg, you've been a comic book writer, and this marks your first feature film adaptation as a screenwriter. Able to adapt your own work, which I think is awesome. And by the way, I know I was looking on your IMDb, you were involved with Siphon Filter, the video game, Logan's Shadow, and I played the hell out of that man back then. Thank you for actually a really good story. That was actually a really good story.
That was my job. That was the story on that. Yeah.
But, we're going to talk the whole time about kind of what you've learned on this process. But I think the easiest place to really get into it today is tell us about how you seeded the idea for the old guard as a comic book began. I know it's the most over-asked question, but we got to set a baseline.
Well, I mean, the problem with that is that there are like 7 different answers. Part of it comes out of, a role-playing game group that I was in the 90s, in a story run by my wife, and it was like, and the mythology of soldiers who don't die, that's a cultural ghost story that's global, right? There's a song by Stan Ridgway called Camouflage that,
The baseline. The whole time about kind of what you've learned on this process. But I think the easiest place to really get into it today is tell us about how the seeded the idea for the old guard as a comic book began. I know it's the most over-asked question, but we got to set a baseline.
Well, I mean, the problem with that is that there are like 7 different answers. Part of it comes out of, a role-playing game group that I was in the 90s, in a story run by my wife, and it was like, and the mythology of soldiers who don't die, that's a cultural ghost story that's global, right? There's a song by Stan Ridgway called Camouflage that is absolutely part of this. There is a character sketch that I have for, the woman who becomes Andy, that I found a document that I'd written in early 2013 that was effectively Andy before I had named her. So it comes from a whole bunch of places, and then it catalyzes when these things collide, and that's probably the result of my father passing and me not wanting to directly interrogate that, so trying to come at it from the side.
That's interesting. You said it was from a document in 2013. Do you do that sometimes? A lot of writers kind of have drawers of ideas. Do you just kind of go back through old ideas to see what you could mine?
No. I have a whole bunch of half-finished notebooks all over, and every now and then I'll rediscover them and be like, there was a reason I abandoned that idea. Most of the time, the idea has some legs and will stay with me. We started working on the old guard as a comic in 2014. I mean, I have sketches that Leo did in early 2014. So it took from this concept of this character to the idea to actually then finding the story, that in and of itself was a journey. I don't know. I mean, for me, the ideas and the stories come from any number of places, but they tend to cook for a while, and then when they're ready, they're ready. They're impatient. So.
Just getting to the film, at what point did you find yourself being approached for the film rights, and how were you able to stay involved as a screenwriter? Because it's so rare that comic book creators stay the screenwriter.
Yeah, it's called a contract. I think the first issue had come out. We had like 4 of the 5 completed, and Skydance called, and I had another couple calls around it, but Skydance was very passionate and very engaged, and when it came time to make the deal, I asserted I wanted to write the draft. Because Hollywood works on the basis of writers are like socks. So the worst thing that was going to happen was the check would be slightly larger that they would have to write. They would get a draft and a second draft and a polish, and that was all they were obligated to. And at that point, they could cheerfully fire me. And at that point, I would somewhat cheerfully admit to being fired, right, if I hadn't been able to do the job. Mind you, that took 20 years to get to a place where, one, I was willing to assert it, two, when the opportunity came, I felt that I could actually fulfill it. You know, but I think it was the second draft that was given to Gina, and then when Gina came aboard, it was like, because before I met Gina, I was like, well, they got a director, so I may be out, right? And instead, Gina comes in with like a notebook and a laptop and the trade, and within 3 minutes of it's very nice to meet you, she's asking, why is this in the script? But this was an comic. You didn't do this in the screenplay, and from that point on, it was like, oh, I guess I get to work with you. Well, this is awesome. So, yeah.
And we'll get to that in the non-spoiler section in the spoiler section in a couple minutes. But Gina, what's great about this for you is that it kind of unboxed you career-wise, and I hate seeing artists boxed in. And this big action movie, you had done Cloak and Dagger, you directed an episode of Cloak and Dagger, so you had the chops, obviously, because you're a veteran director anyhow. But Hollywood tends to keep people in boxes and zones and not let them kind of explore and expand. So what was it like for you to pitch on this job? How did you wind up becoming involved in it?
And I'll just correct one thing you said. They put women in boxes. They don't put those limits on male directors, just to be real. I was absolutely, it started with putting it out into the ether that I wanted to do an action film. I love them. I see them all. I have 2 boys, a husband. It's a family thing that we do. And as I saw the way that they were evolving over the last couple of years and becoming action dramas, I really loved that. I love Logan. I love Black Panther. The way that they have all the things you love in the genre, yet I cried in both of those because the depth of character was so well done. I love that they were bringing in different types of directors to bring their aesthetic to the genre. And I wanted my turn, to be honest, and so I started making steps to get into the conversation, and it started with directing the pilot of Marvel's Cloak and Dagger, and that certainly got me then into meetings, and then Silver and Black, which I was on for a year and a half, and that didn't go, but what I learned there was invaluable, absolutely. But just as I was kind of fading from that, this script came, and I was not familiar with the comic, but I was familiar with Greg's work because one of the things I looked at when I was working on Silver and Black was Lazarus, and so
I didn't know that.
I know, it was the first time I've ever said it. And I was so blown away by the work, and so much I was like, I kind of want to do this. But I loved his female characters, and here I'm reading the script by him, and I'm getting that same great feeling, and I just loved everything about it. And what was so beautiful, though, is once I knew I wanted to do it, Skydance, and having me come in, one of the first things they said in the meeting was it was my work and love of basketball and Beyond the Lights that got me in the room, because they wanted that type of character development and depth of story in the old guard. And so for the first time, instead of me being told you can't get in the room because you have no action experience, I was in the room because of my prior work. And so that was just a great environment. They were intent on having a female director. I was so passionate about the material. And then, of course, once I got in the room, I talked about how I was going to shoot the action. But it was great. And I have to say one of the coolest moments as well is, when they told me that once I got the gig, they told me Greg's reaction. And, I hadn't met Greg yet. Now it all makes sense. But they told me how excited he was about me doing it. And I believe, Greg, you sent me an email, and that just blew me away. One, that you were familiar with my work, and that you saw that, again, that I was an asset to this, as opposed to, can she really do this? So it's a great environment to be in.
There's a long history of rich character development in your work, so I mean, you're a perfect choice, and you really knocked it out of the park. Before we get into deeper elements here, I just want to, for a moment, listen, because Hollywood's having a moment, a critical moment at this time, where the voices of people of color are being listened to and amplified. And I'm just curious, moving forward, we've had different programs in place for years. We've had diversity programs. There's been inclusion, casting has been on the rise as well. But what do you think are some important things going forward that people should be more aware of?
What the heck? It's such a long list.
Yeah.
I'll just focus on a couple. Foremost, you need people of color in the room, and not just one, because when you have just one, you think, oh, I filled my quota. Yet, we are not a monolith. We have different thoughts about things as well. So, but it's so important to have someone in the room to call out things that you may not get if you are not of that culture or that environment. And it's so obvious to me, things that I've seen in scripts that just don't make sense. And if you had a black person in the room, you would say, I'm not going to call out the film, but the film I saw, and it's a film that I loved, except for one big element. Like, why does this one black character film, they have no black friends. They didn't have a black boyfriend. She had no family. It was like she was on this island, like they just decided, hey, let's cast her black, but that's all well and good, yet then do your homework and let her culture be a part of who she is. That's what makes it authentic and truthful. But when you have nobody in the room, it's not enough to just paper your film with different cultures. Like, let them be who they are. So that's foremost. And when you have people in the room, they call out stuff like that. And then give more filmmakers of color the opportunity to tell our stories and tell them authentically and truthfully, so that our images are not always coming from someone else's lens. And that is, according to the statistics of 2019, 80% of films, and I put Greg outside of that because Greg is special, but white men.
I'm a white guy. I mean, I'm a middle class white guy. I benefit enormously from my privilege, and I'm aware of it, and that is something that I bring to my writing. Is I try to be aware of where I am and things I don't know.
I think what's great about The Old Guard is that it's also an example of a movie that has a diverse cast, has Gina as director, but it's not an issue movie. And that's the place that we've always been trying to get to, in which there's also a boxing in sometimes of people of color, but only do people of color issue movies. But unboxing that again is great. So
I wanted to say, because I think Gina's absolutely right. Is you can't put one black person in your writer's room and then lay on them the burden of speaking for all people of color. It is a horrible position to put anybody in, right? To say your voice is now the voice for everyone. You were expected to be, and it's dishonest of our world, right? I mean, one of the things that I am just unrepentantly proud about in this movie is that there's a lot of deep stuff in this film, but this film, as much as it is, very different, is reflective of our world. It looks like our world, except for the part where the dead people get up again. It looks like our world. But that's so important to so many people, and it's important to the people who have always been represented. I think it's important to white people to see that. You know what I mean? Because it's at the least it forces an acknowledgement that, oh, right, it's kind of a big world.
I want to jump into the writing because I know we're on a time limit. But since you're both writers, I'm going to give you kind of like some lightning, quick questions here about your habits. How important is outlining to your process for both of you? Obviously, Greg, starting with you, but I want to hear Gina's view on it too.
It depends on the project. It really depends on the project.
How important was it for The Old Guard? I mean, obviously you'd already written it once, so
I had it outlined. Yeah, so to do the screenplay was, in that sense, structurally not a problem because I had the structure already. The comic, I didn't know in truth what I was writing about until I got to the second to last issue of the comic. Up until that one, yeah, because, well, look, any writer who tells you I am writing this story about this thing, it may be about the thing that they say it is, but I guarantee you that 70% of the way through the process or so, they're going to be like, oh, I'm writing about something else entirely as well, right? There are other things at work. So it really wasn't until I realized this is a spoiler, but it really wasn't until I realized, oh, it's Booker, that the whole thing crystallized for me. And I didn't know it was Booker until I was done with issue 3.
Wow.
I was over the hump on that. I remember having a conversation with Alejandro Acona, our editor, and me having to explain to him, like, I think it's Booker, and I think this is why, and him actually being like, I'm not sure about that.
We'll get into that more in this section. Gina, outlining for you is it an important part of your process?
It used to be. It's not anymore. I'm not necessarily advocating for it. I get impatient because I just want to start writing. But what I do is have at least I write to turning points, which keeps me writing forward and pushing the story forward. So I know each turning point, and it also distills it, so I don't feel like I'm writing 120 pages. Oh, I have to write 15 pages to get to this point and this point. So, but I spend so much time thinking before I even start writing, like months of just sitting in this chair here with a notebook and just jotting ideas down. So by the time it's come to writing, I feel like I've thought through it so deeply.
I've interviewed a lot of writers, and they have similar habits, obviously, but the one thing that always seems to stump everybody a little is how you collate those notes. When you have a journal filled with notes, how difficult is it for you to go back and find the right ones that you want to incorporate? Do you just spend a lot of time rereading your notes?
I think that once I decide, okay, I'm ready to write, I go back and read, and it's amazing because oftentimes it's those first thoughts that I go back to because they were the most raw and honest and kind of what I really want to pull out of myself. So certainly, I love reading it that one time, but then I don't really go back to it again because it's so distilled in my head. So it's that, and then creating my soundtrack because I have to write to music, so I create a soundtrack for every script, and then I have my big jar of Junior Mints, which are my little treats after I finish scenes, and I start writing.
You should get a playlist up on Spotify or something. That sounds amazing. Gina, starting with you and then going to Greg, how do you give yourself a daily hours, like a certain amount of hours you want to write, or a page count that you need to hit?
I do page count. The hours thing, I have 2 kids.
How many pages do you try to hit?
I think I do. It changes. It definitely changes with each project. I feel like I do 8 pages.
Okay. Greg?
Depends on the medium. If I'm writing in prose, there's a word count, not a page count. And that'll be...
Okay, let's take a second. I could either do the basing on them. Alright. I mean, the basing's okay, but I really need to do one layer on the knights if I can. Okay. Now I got a mask. Alright, let's do this. Let's set you guys aside for a minute while I figure this out. I will... No. Set you aside. do the aluminum on the metals. That has to be done. And then I guess I can varnish. Yeah, the varnish isn't going to help. Well, no. Let's do that. Let's do the aluminum. Yeah. Normally with the casings, I just did them in metal. Okay. Interesting. A jam.
3,000 to 5,000 words a day. If it's a screenplay, it tends to be. I tend to work through sequences. So depending on the sequence, because sometimes it is really slow. So I try to get through, 2, 3, and that'll probably come out to between 5 and 10 pages. And then for comic scripting, it's all over the map. I shoot for 6-page increments, but if I can get to 10 or 12, I'll take it. I'm very aware of getting a point of diminishing returns. And there's no fun in that. I mean, writing for me just isn't fun anyway. It's just the thing that I know how to do.
You do well, sir. You do well.
Well, thank you.
What was your budget and schedule? Just as kind of wrapping out our non-spoiler questions.
That's also fun. I can't tell you the budget. It was a lot.
Okay, schedule.
Schedule 63 days.
Okay, that's great. And Gina, one last non-spoiler question for you. Pre-production is really a director's realm, so that you're prepared for being on set. Obviously, you're working out stunts, special effects. What was something really important in pre-production for you?
The training for the actors. Knowing that I wanted this film to feel grounded and real, that had to permeate every aspect, and most importantly, the action and the stunts. I wanted to make sure that we could tell a story with each set piece that had the beginning, middle, and end, that it was character driven, that there was emotion to it, and the best way to do that is to have the actors really do it. So, I was very upfront with everybody at the outset. You were doing your stuff, but they were all game across the board, and they put in the work. It was months of training, but specifically talking to Kiki, who had never done this before, all that training is your rehearsal. You are building Nile. You are building that character. You are building this Marine and this warrior. But that was so wholly important, and I didn't know 100% until that first day on set when we started shooting the plane fight, which was the first thing we shot, whether all that training was going to show up on screen. And the minute he did that first punch, and I saw the intent behind it, I knew that we were good.
Did it allow you to go over dramatic scenes as well during those training months, because you would have some extra drama rehearsal time beyond just fights and stunts?
It's really interesting on this film, the biggest film that had the longest shoot. I had the least amount of actual rehearsal time, except for the training. But what was beautiful about this is I wanted great actors for every role, and I got great actors for every role, which allowed me to have a little less. But all of our sessions, so to speak, were so much about just talking about character and talking about the scene as opposed to going through the lines, and that is invaluable in terms of the other actors helping to build their characters, understand what the scenes are about, and that's the fun part, because you want to leave some freshness once you get on set. You want those lines to feel brand new. So I tend to only focus on what something is about as opposed to getting so specific until we're on the set.
That makes sense. All right. People that are watching this on YouTube at the Backstory Magazine YouTube page, or our podcast listeners on iTunes and Spotify, press pause if you have not seen the movie, because we are getting into the spoilers. We're going to discuss that detail and go see the movie. And go see the movie on Netflix. It's probably, the movie is probably already in your pocket right now. Okay? So go see the movie and come back and listen to the rest of the interview. I think one of the things that was deviating a bit from the comic that was interesting here is of the stakes is the concept of Andy starting to lose her immortality and becoming mortal, and kind of this concept that maybe as that's happening to her, it's because of Niles getting her powers. At what point did that idea come along? Because it's a cool idea and it ups the stakes for the character.
It came in, I want to say right? Because the process is an ongoing editorial process. You are always interrogating the material, even when you're on set, and even when you're setting up for the shot, you're interrogating the material, going, "Is this the best way? Right? Is this the best one?" And it was one of those ideas that I wish I had thought of when I was doing the comic. Because it is so beautifully visual, and it becomes it is the perfect, demonstration of the character's problem, right? It literally externalizes the character's internal problem. You want to die? Okay. I mean, quite literally, now everything she's dealing with, she has to confront. And in the mythology that we're playing with and sort of the higher gaming field of the stories, it's a beautiful. I was watching it with some fans. We have a Discord, and we were watching the movie this weekend. And Andy's scene where she says, "That's it, I'm done the rock and rolling for all I care, I quit," right? And then you go, cut Afghanistan, meet Niall Freeman, and it's literally Gina as the god of the story going, "Oh, you think so, do you?" And that's that's the same thing you get out of Andy having to question everything, and she has to question everything because this one trope changes for her.
Yeah, I think it's a great element. It really keeps the stakes going even higher. It was a great addition. Was there ever any consideration of adding in Andy's love interest, Achilles, the freed slave who fought for the British?
I mean, he was in the draft that I read. Absolutely. I think it's a beautiful relationship within the graphic novel. Just as we were talking about developing it, there was a thought which was interesting, which was elevating Quinn's character, and kind of the fact that then you've got Andy and Niall, but also this female as well. You don't know is she a good guy or a bad guy? To have all of those female elements in it, and that character was right there. And it was about elevating her, and she's such a fascinating character. I know I want to know all about her and her psyche at this point. Having been drowned for 5 years. So it really was kind of that thought process. There's so much in the graphic novel that we want to use, but we have to be judicious because we've got 2 hours. So I felt like it helped us focus the story in terms of what Andy was hiding.
It's very much a streamlining. I mean, that's what it is. Because the original draft, I think that Gina read not only had the Achilles stuff, it had the Joe and Nikki flashback, and it had a much longer flashback. Like, that material was in there. And I think that on an editorial level, Achilles is not removed from Andy's backstory, right? The telltale painting is in the mind. But to have removed it from the narrative of the movie allowed the movie, there's a lot of stuff to jump around with, and if you were in the middle of it now jump back over and over again, it is important to the character being again, and I don't think anybody was dismissing it. It's more an issue of going, there's this amount of time and this story to tell.
I can see it as a tough choice. I mean, and you used your time wisely. You were talking about it a second ago, the Quinn flashback. I mean, flashback storytelling, it's always difficult because it's an exposition dump, technically. So anything you want to do is make sure that you're not boring your audience, and that you're telling it in an interesting way. And it's just like it magnifies everything about the movie so brilliantly and gives you this really rich story. It was just presented in such a quick flash. I thought it was really interesting at the point in the movie that it came. I could have seen it being kind of modular at what point we got that flashback from. Did it always land at that point?
You're talking about the initial Quinn, the Quinn revelation story?
Yeah, and her being put in the Iron Maiden.
It wasn't always all together. It was at one point different moments were sprinkled, but it did become obvious in editing. Like let Andy, let Nikki, let Joe, let Booker tell this story, and let us as an audience hear the story of Quinn as one thing. And what I love about it so much also is so much of the story has no dialogue except for that little piece between the two women for a moment. It doesn't have dialogue, it just has voiceover, and I feel like it allows an audience to lean in even more. And then honestly, it was, the Iron Maiden being trapped in there is my worst nightmare. I'm claustrophobic, so.
And that was on Gina. That had not been in the script, and then she came, during production, and she said, "We have designed this thing." And I'm sitting there going, "Actually, I don't think the Iron Maiden's around until 8 deep." And she's like, "Shut up, we're going to do this." She was just.
And then I did find one. I did find that time appropriate.
Well, and certainly you could argue that a metal coffin was around that could have been ornate. So,
but she was swept overboard in the comic, and this actually was a great addition. And it really, it haunts the character for the rest of the movie. The exclusion of Healy's and the introduction of Quinn there keeps her haunted and revoked.
It does something else too, because like Gina was saying, there was a period where the information had been parceled out, and as it's parceled out, it plays differently. It plays its attention, right? Because it asks the audience going, how does this get answered? And by putting it all together in the rectory scene, it actually makes it this really powerful connective moment between Niall and Andy, as well as serving to fill in that history. And I thought I just thought it was a great choice.
But also, I think this is the amazing thing about production is the whole thing started with, there's no way we can afford last year for Quinn falling on. So what can we do differently, but still evoke everything we need emotionally from it? And that's where it's beautiful too. Greg was on set. Okay, I wanted him there because he knows these characters and the story better than anybody. It's such an incredible gift. And that was just brainstorming, figuring out what can we do differently to tell the story.
Comic book movies always have set pieces. Millions of dollars are spent on them. My favorite set piece in this movie, by the way, I love the whole movie, but it's clearly Joe and Nikki in the armored van. You don't need any special effects. Yeah. It's somebody making who's that your boyfriend joke? You're like, oh God. And then he just busts into this great monologue, and they kiss to the point that the guards are so disturbed they have to split them up. But it's a monologue of true love, and you can never understand what he means to you. Talk about just constructing that, and obviously also filming it, Gina, because it's really great to show stuff.
Very much touched by construction and a lot about shooting.
Well, it was in the comic, and one of the thesis elements is that, like, if you're around for, I don't care, certainly if you are 500 years old, your tolerance for intolerance, for prejudice and bigotry is just gone. It's just gone. You will have, if you have been out there doing what you were supposed to do, why eat today? Then you have been confronted too many times by, wow, my preconceived notions and whatever are totally wrong about you. So, the most telling line for me, and that is actually the very first thing that Joe says, right, which is, you're a child, an infant, and your mocking is thus infantile. Which I just love as a takedown. And so, it mattered to me, and it mattered to me if I was going to have two queer characters in love. I wasn't going to hide it, and neither were they. But I don't care if you think it's appropriate or not. They're going to be around when you're gone. So, and that was what I gave Gina.
Yeah. I love seeing in the script. The actors, Marwan and Luca, we're looking forward to shooting that scene. It just meant so much to their characters. And we were in a real armored car with no flying walls, or how am I going to shoot this in this confined space? But I wanted us to feel that. And it was 13 takes. We wanted to get it right, and it was amazing because both Marwan and I knew knew the moment that he nailed it, because I knew I wanted to hold as much as I could in one take, and that is all one take. And then to get a call from my editor the next morning after she just watched the dailies and was like, oh my God. And sent me back tape that Marlon and I wanted. It was a really beautiful moment. And the best part about it is that after we finished shooting, two different crew members came up to me, two guys who said, like, I'm watching it and I'm not even thinking it's two men, I'm just seeing two people in love.
Okay. I can either so the only reason to mask, or the only reason to varnish, is if I'm going to mask. So anything I'm not going to mask, I could just go ahead and paint. So let's figure out how we're going to paint these heads. I think what I want to do is I want to quarter them. Oh, I see. I did black first. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to check that. Maybe. Alright, on the last batch of these, I did a lot of lines and I did a lot of striping. So, one thought would be to do these guys half and half. That'd be kind of fine. Another thought would be to do these guys quartered. Well, because you guys already have your armor on, it would make it a lot easier to do it half and half. Oh yeah, let's move the... Let's look at what are those guys called? Hawk Lords 43? Is that what they're called? No. Alright, how about this? I do like this idea of doing half. So if that's the case, what we would have to do is we'd have to varnish today. Yeah, alright. Let's do it. We will hit it with a glossy varnish.
So you can see I can give them full rations or feast. I don't get that much of a benefit out of it, so I'm just going to half ration them. Also take controls. Now, our campfire. So let's count to 12 together. Dark strength on Speak of the Commune's 5. This is how we do it, takes that to 7. Reflection takes that to 10, and then I have 2 left over, so I can do Encourage. No one has the ability to... Like, Wound Care is only useful on Brevdan, but Brevdan can't target themselves. Encourage is only useful on Hendry, but Hendry can't target themselves. The other people only have Pet Roll. I don't have space in my inventory to upload the Ancestors map before I do the Unspeakable Commune, unfortunately. Alright. Dark strength to you. Every rose has its thorns. No, it's still just reflection. Encourage you. Alright. Nighttime mind was prevented. Now this is for...
Spirits are lifted. That purpose is made clear.
This is for dodge and protection, right? We'll have to interact with it. The problem is it can also give you a positive quirk, and William has Photomania that I actually want to lock in. Evasive isn't bad, but I don't want to lock in. Don't give me a quirk. Petra, and replace Photomania. It'll effectively be the same at the moment because it's negative 10% stress, but it's just not as good as Photomania because it's not viable in every area. Ugh. I knew that was going to happen as soon as I did that as well. Hey, it's the gargoyles! They actually can be bled. Not likely, but they can be. Give them a wee bit of Val. Flurry of Force, but no damage. How does that make sense? Like, their attacks are so weak. I have
you too,
never
huh?
encountered the gargoyles actually being scared at all. It's always just been, oh, all right, well, that's however many enemies are in the fight. I'm like, okay, it's that many fewer enemies that I have to kill. However many gargoyles are in the fight, it's that many fewer enemies that I have to kill. That's what it is. Because they don't really count. They're just garbage. So we hydrate everything. Oh my god, screw you.
Remind yourself that overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer.
Getting rid of the stack of food. Because of the way that I camp, I think I can do this. Move on. If we ever get like a second of those high value gems, finally I will be redeemed. That said, the most likely way to get them in this specific area is holy water interaction with the bowl. So, yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, move is unlikely. 35% chance to ever move them. We got it. We're going to be able to just dunk these nobles out of existence. I love it. That's a lot of damage. If you're wondering why I marked a bone noble before hitting it, it's because their 21 dodge means that I have like a 71% chance to hit them. But the mark actually also decreases their dodge by 18. Okay. Speed us up, get those crits. Alright. Yeah, pretty for a ridiculous amount, but the thing is, like, I can't take much damage. That's like the big problem that I have with this right now. Alright, negative 50 stunners of 3 rounds. That makes sense. So you're probably going to ground pound this turn if I guess. At least you're going to try to. Yeah, worth. Still worth. The stun chance is like 70 right now. Ground pound. Ooh, full resists. Hell yeah. That said, party spread damage is actually the worst kind of damage against me because I don't have party spread healing. Crit. It's 130, 70, 60% chance. I'd love to be taking Portrait's home, but the amount of problems I'm having with my inventory space at the moment, I can't afford it. Okay. Spiders. All right. Spring. Got him. My spider. My spider.
The slow death, unforeseen, unforgiving.
Consigning you to 1 turn. Let's go. Oh, we crit healed. Oh, it's so good. What a crit. What? We got a crit? I meant to say, actually. Sorry about that. I'm going to Battle Balladus just so that we're fast enough to guarantee that we act over the top of them next round. And then I'm going to self-heal. Then we act over the top of them this round. And then kill them.
Be wary. Triumphant pride precipitates a dizzy fall.
I should have poked my head out here and moved that curio when it was there, by the way. If you're not going to go in a direction, at least poke your head out and see if there's a curio directly in front of you. I do want to start that second build already. Because I'm almost certainly starting another second build as soon as I open this. Alright, we're going to be on low lag. We are going to be on low lag for a significant portion of this dungeon. Mine. It's just improved because there's no way that we get a stack of jade home. It's just pathetic. They're worth too little. I would have to be super over-reliant on stack of jade. This is a holy water interactable, but if you interact with that out holy water, you get plus 20% damage until camp. I'm still yet to find a secret. We're in a long dungeon, so there's a significant chance there is one. I'm not going to pump the torch yet. Oh, it's a lot of stress. They're acting on top of me as well. It's the worst. How dare they be faster than me? Oh no! I can't pull anyone out of position here. If I pull them out of position, I prevent my ability to hit the Rolling Madman with the lever. And the thing is, if I kill... No, I don't get you. If I kill the Rolling Madman with the Jester, then the lever has no one to hit. Super overkill, by the way. Your amount of damage is insane.
Okay.
So all of those buffs that the lever has, as a result of the camping, are going to disappear after this turn. And that's a lot of accuracy there as well. So our accuracy is going to go. I should have just pulled you out of position. I don't know why I risked that. If I pulled you out of position, that the chop there would kill both. Alright, so now while the Bone Marksman is entirely incapable of dealing damage to me, or rather any significant damage, I'll take some time to heal, stress heal, get all that kind of stuff done. A little bit of self-healing there. Battle Ballad would also make me a little more confident in doing this. Just in case. Oh, we did get a second Sapphire. Cool, paid off. So we've had literally no need for shovels this entire dungeon, which is... like, it's both good and bad. It's good because I haven't had, too many obstacles, and it's fine. But obviously it's bad, because now I'm carrying around a load of shovels, and, I can't bet that there's not going to be an obstacle in any of those three, so I still have to keep them around. It's annoying. I actually have to lose that 150 builder, unfortunately. I should probably camp here. I know we lose the plus 20% damage buff, but we also lose the negative 15% stress, and we free up some space.
Jesus, I can't see anything.
moment of respite. A chance to steel oneself against the coming horrors.
And we can also renew our other buffs. You can drop that before you use the unspeakable comedy.
Alright, so we have to let that cure.
This is how we do it, and reflection.
I don't see a reason to wash the metals on those today.
The light, the promise of safety.
So yeah, that was.
Let's actually take a pause for a second and consider. The first one I just kind of experimented. And then on the next wave, I did all of this craziness. So I think with these, we simplify. We quarter or we half, and that's it. I think that'll be fine. So I could do bases today, I suppose. See, okay, this thing is just kind of like, there's really not a lot to it. Let's look at the Fondor shipyards. Again, really not much to these. They're not really dirty. They're just big. I don't really know what I'm looking at. These are just big fucking ships. Okay, I'm not going to lay down that today because I want to let that stuff fully cure. So my options are either to do the basing, could do your green. That would be an option. But I don't want to clog up the airbrush if I don't have to. So I can either do the Fondor shipyards, get base layers down. I really don't feel like doing that today. Let's just do basing. I think just doing some marine basing seems like a perfectly good way to finish up the day.
Basically, just a camp there specifically for the sake of freeing up space in my inventory, as well as turning the light back on. All right, if I scout this corridor, then I can tell whether or not I need shovels anymore, and that's handy. Sure. This is super, super simple of a find. Just start with the knockback on the front. Do need to distress healing stuff. Start with the knockback on the bone bulwark. Didn't get them in the right order here, unfortunately. That's annoying. Welcome. It's only the marksman I have to care about. The conscript is just so weak. Like, you can... I could also, like... This is a really, really good kind of stalling party. One part of my enemies is what I'm talking about. I'm saying it would be totally fine to stall against these. Marked. And I'll take this turn to use Solemnity. You'll use Clumsy Axe Blade to try and move forwards. My name is Rhapsody. Welcome back to Darkest Dungeon, specifically... My name is Rhapsody. Welcome back to Darkest Dungeon, specifically the Darkest Rhapsody estate thereof. You can already see the crew I've selected over on the right-hand side. That's right, it's another Dismas Mortimer kind of banger up in here. Hell yes. Also got a frontline Vestal who is almost certainly going to move to the second line when Dismas, who acts with 8 speed plus 2 from the Ancestor's Candle, 10, probably acts before Burgette. And then Dismas will allow themselves to move forward. Burgette will become our second liner. They'll use Mace Bash and they'll party heal with Divine Comfort and throw out a couple of hand lights. Actually, no, they're not going to be throwing out hand lights. They'll be using Illumination. We'll have a bit of a closer look at that as I start to level the characters up. Other than that, we've got some people that we do need to lock away for treatment. Sort by stress, and you can see that we've got the entire party already unlocked for treatment. Bashard, you're not coming out on the quest, so I could consider removing Spasming Entrails, but at the same rate, I could just not do that instead. I do want to remove Calm. Locking in Natural Swing's not bad either. I think I'll actually... no, but Penel's not going out on a mission for a very long time, so probably not necessary to do yet.
So, you have a movie for me? Yes, sir, I do. It's based on a book series about vampires. Oh,
Light Sensitive, I do want to lock out. It's just I don't have anything I want to lock in on Benel. Now, Bele just has like a bunch of garbage. Like, you've got Weak Grip on Life, you've got Claustrophobia, you've got Ashen, and you've got nothing that I really want to lock in. So, I think I'm going to remove Ashen from Bele, and for now, I'm going to remove Light Sensitive. It is a little costly, but it's going to make our mid parties a lot easier to swallow, a lot less troublesome. Okay. Going back to the parties that are actually leveled up, I'm actually going to take Illumination here. It bypasses stealth and allows me to de-stealth the target as well as lower their dodge. Now that's what I'm really looking for, the ability to lower the dodge of the target so that I can guarantee follow-up hits. Also, the removal of the stealth, let's not understate the value of that. Full stop. Dismas done, Hendry done, Mortimer done. Actually, I'm going to be using the Flash Powder on Mortimer so that I can lock a target down for a longer period of time, just in case I want to take more recovery actions. And everyone's got 444 for their levels of equipment. Cool, so we are actually set already. What's that? 2 minutes and 40 seconds? I apologize for the short starting here. The mission we've also chosen, by the way, is going to be this veterans mission. It does only have 12 crests, where I could go for a veteran mission in the ruins to get 12 deeds. Deeds more useful than crests. But this would give me a focus ring. Do I need another focus ring? I've occasionally wanted a second focus ring, but not commonly. I don't know. Maybe I actually go to the ruins. Let's have a look at the character's predilection. You want to go to the Warrens. You want to go to the ruins. Thanks for scouting chance. Now, we are taking someone with imposter syndrome. I'm just going to have to run that chance, unfortunately. I'm also only going to run the Feather Crystal on Mortimer, just so that with that and Early Riser, oftentimes she'll be fast enough to outspeed all of the enemies and get her Protect Me up. It's actually a wee bit difficult. I'm probably kind of equally suited to each. Consider that Hendry would be really, really good as a... Hendry's only here for stress removal, by the way. If I had a Crusader, I would have just put the Crusader in this line, and then I would have put the Vestal where Hendry is. But no, Hendry is basically just here to provide the battle buffs as well as the Inspiring Tune. So the fact that they can't bleed skeletons isn't that big of an issue. I could go to the ruins instead. I still want to level up the Warrens more as well. But I haven't fought the Necromancer second version. So I think it's just called the Necromancer. And then after that, I've got the Necromancer Lord to fight. I'll actually double check that. Yeah, we've got the Apprentice Necromancer. Oh, Necromancer Lord is actually the second level of it. I've also not got the Gibbering Prophet, apparently. No, I've done an Apprentice and I've done Necromancer. I've done Sonorous, I've done Fulminating. Okay, so there's no low-level bosses in this area left. The Brigand 12 pounder is a veteran level boss in the Wields. It's already available, so I could go fight that now. Yeah, no, I want to go to the Warrens so that I can unlock and get to killing the Swine King and the Unstable Flesh. Alright. So we're going to be going to the Warrens. And that is our party ordering. We've got the right skills and everything like that. All good. Beautiful. Probably don't need to ridiculously over-prepare in terms of food. We have... So this is something I've been thinking about recently because I saw a comment that was saying, hey, can't you just throw your shovels away? What's the worst case? What's the worst thing that can happen? Effectively, is what it was saying. You incur some stress and some damage, but you could loot a lot more. So I'm actually looking at it now and thinking, I have a Vestal, I have a Jester. I might be able to go through this entire dungeon with no shovels. I think I'll run light on shovels. I think I'll take 2. If I have to push through shovels and then just group heal my party and group stress heal, fine. That's what they're already here for. Other than that, I'll take probably that many keys. Don't need that many torches because I will be using Illumination, which increases our torchlight, as well as Dazzling Light, which increases our torchlight. So I don't think I'll take any more of those. Holy Water, probably want like 2. 2 medicinal herbs, 2 bandages. Yeah. Keys, shovels, torches. Yeah, I'm done. Yeah. Let's go Long Warren's mission. Let's go, Warren. Let's go. Space or click to move. I'll go.
They breed quickly down there in the dark, but perhaps we can slay them even faster.
Perhaps we can. Okay, what path can I take? If I go up immediately, nope, that's not going to be a no backtrack path, unfortunately. Okay, so yeah, unfortunately, because of this 6 set over here, there's no backtracking path. So I'm always backtracking at least 1. This has more loot, so I'm going to leave this area for later. so that I can loot it in low light at the end of the dungeon.
Finding the stuff is only the first test. Now it must be carried home.
I'm extraordinarily unlikely to go back into that hallway, so I only had to poke my head out to loot it. May as well do. I'm probably going to do that with this hallway as well. Just poke my head out and loot that. 100% of room battles means that I know that I'm definitely coming back in this area. Oh, nice. Warren's foe, that would be kind of handy here. Clumsy is annoying. Dud Hitter is a little bit annoying. No cheat I don't care about. Scattering I don't care about. Lazy I don't care about. Both of those only affect range skills, of which the Jester has none. Clumsy is a little bit annoying. Diurnal's not. Imposter and Shocker are both garbage. Alright, we need Waterman to burn this.
It's kind of tilted.
You removed Calm. That's actually one that I would be totally fine with her keeping. The fact that I've seen a single scroll probably means there are more scrolls. I've got to remember to loot things with the Antiquarian as well.
Treasure could staunch the flow of otherworldly corruption.
I always forget to do that for the first lootable in the area. Always. Without fail, I fail. We definitely want to bleed the epilogic hell out of the Slavering Ghoul. Because the longer they're here, the more stress recovery I'm going to have to do after the fight.
Inspiration and improvement.
This is really unfortunate because these guys respect Mark, so I'm very, very surprised that they didn't target Dismas there. Sure. Damn, bleed. Alright. I could roll a stun, 60% chance. Worth. Nice. Really? Wants he to live? Alright. That's unfortunate because I have no damaging ability here. Just gonna heal. Whoa! My guard is already down? That makes no sense to me. Slicing again. Whack him. They're unholy. It'll work. It'll be fine. Alright.
Impressive.
I think your bleed now kills you. Yeah, it does. Okay. So, what's my goal? My goal is to get the Vestal to a position where they can use their heal.
A momentary abatement.
Alright. Not bad for a first fight.
A trifling victory, but a victory nonetheless.
Definitely need to start a stack of rare antiques. So,
And they were
I feel like I've got everything I wanted to get out of that.
Hey, Screenwriting Life fans, producer Jeff Graham here, and because we know you're a podcast fan and we know you love to be creative, we thought you might want to hear about our sponsor, Anchor, the best way to make your very own podcast. Not only is it free, but there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit right from your phone or computer. Now you can even add songs from Spotify directly into your episodes. The possibilities are endless for what you can create, whether it's music analysis, your own radio show, or maybe even a screenwriting podcast. Anchor will distribute your show for you, and you can make money with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. If you like what you hear, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hey, Hi, welcome to the Screenwriting Life. I'm Meg LaFauve.
And I'm Lorianne McKenna.
We are professional screenwriters. We've worked together as a team and separately. We've worked on studio and indie films, live action and animation, from my work on Inside Out and Captain Marvel
to my work in Pixar's story department on Up, Brave, and Inside Out. We are here to share our insights on the craft of screenwriting and also the life. How to not only survive the ups and downs, but thrive. We want to help you become the best screenwriter you can be and to reassure you that you are not alone on this journey.
Hey guys, welcome back. We're so glad you could be here with us, listening to us, the voices in your head.
And that's our topic for today. Voices. Inside your head and outside your head. So the question we're going to talk about is, how do you maintain your creative integrity with all the voices coming at you?
Woohoo! But first, of course, we're going to talk about our week in what we call Adventures in Screenwriting. How was your week, Maureen?
Good, I think. Yeah, I had to spend some time prioritizing and reorganizing, and sort of figuring out what my bigger goals are and how to get there. With your help. With your help. Thank you so much. Yeah, and it's really hard because I have so many ideas. And as you know, Meg, as soon as I commit to one thing, I have 3 other brilliant ideas, right?
That are much better. Usually, right? Your brain is like, oh my God, this is hard, so let's do this.
Yeah, so I have 3 projects that I'm focusing on this week, and I got a fair amount done on 2 of them.
That's good.
So that feels good. The usual mishigas of life gets in the way. So as much as here's my schedule, I'm going to 2 hours here, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to take a walk with my daughter, then I'm going to do this. Like, at some point, it starts to fall apart a little bit. So it's about the next day reassessing, right? Which is what I did as a producer. Okay, that didn't work. Let's reassess, reset expectations, because I think for me, I have a little streak of perfectionism. And so trying not to that didn't work out the way I wanted, needed, expected it to happen. So let's reevaluate, right? So every day is a fresh opportunity to reset, that I can't let yesterday's sort of, not failure necessarily, but it didn't work out. Jumble. Yeah.
Jumble.
I didn't get to everything I wanted to get to, and for me, time and energy are, at a premium. And it's sort of, the situation that we're in, being locked down, the family pressure, I have to figure out how to take care of myself and all this too, right? I can't burn myself out. And so that's another piece of it, and finding that balance, right?
Super important. Like on one hand, you have that you can't burn yourself out, and on the other hand, I do think you have to it's better to set a specific goal.
Yes.
Otherwise, you find you're wandering around.
Absolutely.
And then I find that very anxiety. I mean, listen, some people maybe love wandering around. I need to know I'm wandering around on my way to that goal.
Yeah, and I have pitch dates set, so I have certain deadlines. So that's always very helpful to give me a framework.
That's a nice way of saying, panicking.
The terror of disappointing people and looking like an idiot, right? So or
the framework.
The framework for my day. Hey, I'm trying to be positive here, right? It's been a long week.
But I would love for you two to put together like a dictionary of what this means to people and what this means to writers.
We should so do that. Please, people, go on your Facebook page and start, telling us your versions of what those words actually mean.
Yeah, that's funny. And then one of the projects I have is based on IP. It's one of these open writing assignments, and so. Last night I couldn't I couldn't sleep because I was trying to figure out, what does every character want? What's the thematic similarities? Like, what would it be called? Like, I was up for hours, and then I couldn't figure it out, obviously, because, at 3 a.m, my brain is not operating at maximum capacity. But then, randomly, I wrote down on a Post-it note what it was, and I figured out how each character tracks through that, and all their different.
I love that.
All their different plots. So as much as I'd like to say, I wish I'd gotten some sleep last night, I think it actually helped churn up some of that stuff. So
hey, if it's up and walking around, it's up and walking around.
My process is unknowable even to me. So I feel good at the end of the week because I have a plan, even though it's imperfect and I can't successfully accomplish everything I set out to do earlier this week. I feel more powerful and confident and less of a mess and less anxious. Like I have a plan, and I communicated what I'm focusing on to my manager. I was like, these are my goals. This is what I'm doing. He's in on it, so I feel like
it's great. That's great that he's in on it.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
I feel like we have a focus. We're a team. Which is good. So
that's awesome.
I'm also exhausted and my throat hurts. So obviously I'm terrified. I have COVID. So that's a whole other thing. But I don't have COVID. I don't leave
Well,
the
that's
house.
good because the anxiety now cannot wreak havoc on you in terms of your storytelling and your plan because you kind of got so now it's like we're okay to go to script, but holy crap, that's a big note. How does it work? What are the ripples? What does it change? So again, we're going to script, but big week, and I'm not sure what we did. Like, where is the giant ring of should be sitting on? She kind of looks at me like, what now? Because I'm always like, I have this bump or whatever. My 17-year-old's the exact same thing.
So, how was your week, Meg?
My week was good. I had one of those weeks where I'm like, I know I worked hard for hours and hours all week, and I'm not sure what we did. Like, where is the giant ream of paper that should be sitting on my desk from all the work we did? I'm at that stage where we're carding again, so we're going to script, but because there were such big notes, I need to card it again, and the director wants to card it again to say, okay, well, we're okay to go to script, but holy crap, that's a big note. How does it work? What are the ripples? What does it change? So we spent the week working on Mural, obviously because of COVID, which got learned.
What's Mural?
So Mural is a program of you can card together at real time.
Oh.
And so we can literally be on the same carding page and move it around, and we can put a link on the Facebook page if you guys want to check it out. And
so you can have like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and
literally like a wall of cards, right? But it's on a digital on your screen, and you can write in the cards. I mean, we figured out that for us, he actually figured out that if we need to bold it and make it pretty big type, or otherwise you fill those cards with so much information that you're like, okay, this isn't carding.
Yes.
Like carding, part of the discipline of carding is you can't write it all down. So what are the big ideas and how are they moving? Is it kind of discipline that starts to show fault lines? And so we're doing that, and it showed some fault lines. Thanks. But now, of course, it takes a long time. He's actually pretty fast at it. I'm a little bit slower. But it took us, at one point during the day, he went to one act and I went to the other, and we worked at the same time. We literally just got off Zoom and each worked, and I could see his little cursor moving and doing things. And so it's fun. But so I did that, and now, but it was very detail-oriented, right? Like, okay, let's talk about this section here with this card for the next hour. Like, what is this card? How does it work? How is she going to do that? That kind of stuff. So it was a lot of work. But now we have a thing on Mural, and
it sounds really great, except for you don't get that satisfaction of unpinning the index card and throwing it on the ground.
Exactly.
And then the next day, finding that card and putting it somewhere else, and it fills in the crack, right? Like that, the physicality of index cards is so great sometimes. But it sounds like a great solution in the meantime.
It's a solution for COVID or for working long distance. Yeah. And I did love when I worked at Pixar that, Pete made us leave the cards on the ground. So at least we felt like we did. There's the week. That's the work that we did. It's all over the floor. Like, it could get ankle deep, if you remember, because we would just, like, pull them down all the time. But,
and then something else you said about where's the ream of paper? Like, when you see in a movie a writer, when they finish the book or they finish the thing and they, like, put the last piece of paper on the manual, like, that just doesn't happen. You never get that. I mean, maybe some people write on a typewriter, or it's like you print it out to read it for typos. Like, it's not the same.
It's just not the same. I mean, it's good too because it's not like you can throw it on a fire and be like, now you always have it, right? But
way to look at the positive there.
No, well, at Sundance, when you go to the lab, the last thing you do the night that you're all leaving is they build a bonfire and you have to throw your script in. What? And I'm sure back when you were using typewriters, that was a very big thing to do.
So people just throw their laptop in?
Exactly. Now you're like, this is symbolic. But it's actually good symbolism. Cool. I don't know if they still do that. They did it in the past. But the other working on a pitch with my husband, and he got notes from the producer, and it was just something I thought, oh, I should bring this up in terms of, when you're working with somebody like a producer, like say on something that you're truly in development on, a pitch that's not sold, it's really tricky, right? Like, when do you bring them in and when don't you? So the bonus of not bringing them in and really getting it way down the road is it's really a good selling tool. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's this thing that you're going to hand them or pitch them is exactly what you want it to be. It's got all the bells and whistles. You figured out how it's going to sell in the marketplace. It's a great story. It has everything that actor needs. It'll attack, whatever. And you just love it because you figured it all out. And then you're giving them this beautiful little, shiny apple. But the problem with that is they might be like, I didn't want an apple. And you're like, what? Right. I just spent 3 months on an apple, right? So you're like, there's a drawback to going too far, because when they teamed up with you as a producer, they thought you were both making bananas and you didn't realize that and went off and made an apple, and you're like, crap. So you really do need to bring them in. But sometimes if you bring them in too soon, or when it's too murky or mushy, the last thing you want is for them to lose enthusiasm. Yeah, because you don't want to sow doubt either, right? Like, they're like, it sounded like a good idea. Right. But these are really big problems, and they would never say that, but, well, this is a challenge, and that's going to be a challenge. And so it's always this balance, isn't it, of when to bring that partner in to help you and when to sell it, especially in a professional situation. And you want to keep them excited. I mean, I want to keep producers attached. I want to keep my manager and agent excited too. Anybody who has to go out and help you sell this, I really want to keep them excited. And it was interesting to listen to this call, and I couldn't help myself and jumped in at the end. And I was like, and by the way, he was still excited, but I could hear I just didn't know. I don't know this producer well enough to know, are these serious doubts or are they just normal doubts? Like, that you would develop it. I just don't know. So at the end, I was like, I couldn't help it. I jumped in and I was like, well, and you know what I'm really excited about? I'm really excited about this buyer and this buyer, and I think this buyer's going to love it. And you know what else? But if that doesn't work, you know what? We're still selling this. But I just did this whole kind of push because I do love it, and I do think my husband has something special, and I had to remind everybody of the specialness of it. Because sometimes you can get so down in the challenges that they forget why we all loved it and that there is this market and how exciting this is. And then everything got a little sparkly again, right? Yeah. I'm not lying. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm just trying to remind everybody that this mushy part is normal. We still love it. It still has incredible potential, right? As a product to take out to the marketplace and as something that we love. So I just reminded everybody why we love it. So I just thought that was something to help you guys out there listening. That's a normal process, and you do have to keep your partners engaged on the positive as well. Because that's part of your job, I think, as a writer, is to keep reminding people why this is so awesome.
Yeah, and there's a piece too. Like, I've struggled with this, and working with you, Meg, I'm sort of figuring this out. Is I like to show work early and get partners' voices in it, and because that enthusiasm or the questions inspire me. But I've had to learn to see it through farther before I show my work, right? So that I can answer the questions, and it's less. So that I have done more work, right? This is a discipline and a belief in myself and my vision, and that I made an apple. I know we were talking about bananas, but that didn't work, and here's why.
And here's why this apple is so amazing.
Here's why the apple's amazing, and I've answered all these questions about why I did that. It's more work, it's riskier, it's scary, but it is a big developmental piece of being a professional writer, right? Of being in that space, of being excited, and you can defend your work. Right?
Right. Yes. And people do want you to do that. Yes. Yeah. You're the expert. You're the writer. You're the creator. They want you to be excited, and it's funny. Like, it depends on what kind of person you are, right? Like, if you're like what you just described, Lorian, we recommend go ahead, make the apple, push yourself to do that, push yourself to believe in yourself, knowing you're still going to get notes, dude. Everybody gets notes, but go ahead and push all you do is make apples, and then when people don't want an apple, you're like, oh well, and you're like, you might be the opposite kind of person who never lets anybody in. Right. Why don't you try letting somebody in a little bit earlier? Make sure they're trustworthy. Make sure you are on the same page of what this is and why you love it. But maybe you should open yourself up to that and see what you can learn about your creative process, letting somebody in early. Just a thought.
I think one of the hardest parts about being a writer is constant personal and professional development.
That's right. It is. It is
just
constant human evolution.
Everything is an opportunity to learn, to challenge yourself. Like there is no, I've got it. Right, and I think that just the future of that, the landscape of that, is a little terrifying. It's comforting in a way,
but it's art. It's art. That's why it's art.
Yeah.
That's why it's not, And by the way, I think craft is amazing, right? But it's not craft; it's art.
Yeah.
Because it is about opening yourself up and continually pushing yourself and evolving yourself, and that's what makes it art, right? And honestly, as much as everybody's like, it's a business, they want cogs. They also want art. They also want your guts in there. And they want people who have these points of view. So, all right, we're going to move on to the next section of the show.
Well, that was so well said. I feel like I just needed that this morning. So thank you so much, guys. That was so well said. I would love to do an episode on pitching. Now that I'm hearing you talk about it, how when to push back against producers, when to stick to you. A lot of that was really good. We can talk about it off air,
and we are expert pitchers. I'm going to be very confident and say that Lori and I are great at selling. We're great at selling shit, guys. We're really good at it.
Personally, selfishly would love that episode, so we can.
All right, so that will probably be a multiple episode, I think, but we'll do that.
Amazing. Well, speaking of pitches, you guys have sent us wonderful podcast reviews. I don't know if it's a great transition, but we're just going to go with it. It's one of our favorite things about this show is the community that we've managed to build. And we're just so thankful and grateful. It's not only great to have fans, but it's great to have these wonderful, artistic, creative, richly engaged fans. It's just really fun. And I know I'm going to speak for Meg and Lori in here, but the birthday wishes that you guys sent were just so nice on the Facebook.
Oh, yes. So nice. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, really special. And speaking of special, you guys have written some amazing reviews. I'm going to read a couple right now. This one comes from Ben W. Johnson, who says, "This is the best new podcast discovery of the year. I somehow only discovered this podcast a week ago, and I'm steadily working my way through the episodes to date. Just have to say it's already my number one favorite new podcast of the year, with a great mix of craft and motivational advice. Exactly what I needed right now, and looking forward to more." What a cool review. Thank you, Benjamin. JRC 1905 says, "This is a breath of fresh air. For anyone who doesn't believe in themselves, this one is for you. If you struggle to write in any capacity, screenwriting, fiction, articles, anything, this one is for you. These are two very intelligent, thoughtful, and honest women telling you the ins and outs of screenwriting and living the craft. I found a little nugget or an oh moment in every episode. I feel like I know them and we're friends. I can't wait for them to be back each week. In the meantime, I'll be returning every so often and taking notes on these beautiful lessons. Thank you, Meg, Lorian, and Jeff." What an amazing review.
Wow. Thank you so much.
So well written, both of those. Lovely.
I'm going to read just one more, and we have a couple we can read even next week. But this one comes from Eddie Amaro, who says, "The only show I'm subscribed to right now. I've never written a review on Apple Podcasts before, but this show has been such a great space to tuck into over the last few crazy weeks and intense months that I felt compelled to share. Lorian and Meg are two amazingly incredible humans, helping us all plug along, do the work, and celebrate the journey. Thank you."
That's so great. Well, you guys Lauren and I, of course, when we hear people say nice things about us, we're like, but it is so nice to know that it's helping you. I mean, that's what I love to hear about, either right now through the Apple reviews, which of course also helps us, but also I like to know that what's helping you and that it's worthwhile for you guys. Yeah.
Well, that's what I say. We're not just reading the podcast to toot our own horn. We're reading them to really build that sense of family that we want this show to be. So when you guys write those reviews, it's a really kind of personal way for you to connect with us, which we really appreciate. And I will say, it helps other people find the show. Meg and Lorian have always been missional in their goal for this show, and those reviews help push the podcast to more people. So they're really helpful, and we will keep reading your beautiful reviews on air. Speaking of our community, I want to quickly mention the Facebook group. If you don't know, we have a Facebook group. It's a really, really cool, I think, essential part of being a fan of this show because it gives you support throughout the week between episodes. But there's a couple admission questions that we have. Lauren around you there, who are the hosts of the show? And I should know, but I think what I mean to say is, just so you all know, those questions are in place just to make sure that we're vetting people who are actually fans of the show. So make sure when you're joining the group, you take the time to answer those questions so we know you actually understand our show.
And we've had some really funny responses to those questions, right, Lorian? Which we have to assume they're just trolls who are just trying to sign up for everything. I don't know why people would do this, but like we've had really. You want to tell them? Do you remember some of the funny ones?
Yes. I just dropped out for a second. My internet just failed, so I don't know. But the two questions, right? Who are the hosts, and what's your favorite movie? And my favorite responses to who are the hosts is who cares, and Robert McKee, and and the authors, which might be a language thing. I don't know, but Robert McKee was probably my favorite.
And so you guys, if you answer that way, as much as you're making us laugh, we can't let you in the group because it means you could not be an authentic human. You could be a robot or a troll or so. Please answer the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of questions, that's a better transition. We want to thank you for all the beautiful questions you send each week. We love answering them on the show. And what I'm going to say is, if you're sending a question to our email, we're going to assume that you are okay with us saying your first name and reading that question on the air. So let us, if you send a question to the email and you don't want your question read on air, you just want a private response, please note that in the email, or we're going to assume that you're okay with it being read on the show.
Or tell us you want to be anonymous.
That's great. But if you post questions to the Facebook page, we're kind of building that to be more like our safe haven. So we won't read any Facebook page questions without your permission first. So you can, if you have a question that feels a little more private, or like you just want like a mentorship community element of support on that question, the Facebook page is a better place to go for that.
Yeah, and there's pro writers on there too, answering questions, and so it's not even just me and Lorian, so it's a great place.
Yeah.
All right, so topic of the show.
Here we go.
Is voices. So last podcast we did voice, meaning your voice as a writer. What is that? And now we're doing kind of a part 2, which is voices, meaning the voices in your head and the voices coming at you is our topic. The most obvious place you're going to get a lot of voices is getting notes, right?
Right.
And those voices coming at you, which you should be wanting. You should be getting them, whether you want them or not. It is part of your process to allow those voices to come into your process. But it can also be overwhelming, I think. My first question always is it too soon? Kind of like what we talked about the week. Like, you can bring voices in too soon as a form of self-sabotage, even unconscious. So, what voices are you bringing in when? I guess is what I would ask you in terms of your note getting. That's your job as a writer to know, okay, it is time. I do need the feedback. And these are the kinds of people I need right now. Do you need the supportive people who are going to just help you figure stuff out and tell you to go? Or do you need the voices that are a little more professional or have a higher bar? And you do need those voices. It's your you have to be the gatekeeper of the voices coming at you. Yeah, in terms of the process of notes.
Which is a hard thing to learn, right? Especially if you're getting feedback from someone who you feel might be farther along in their career or you really respect. It doesn't necessarily mean they're right. Sometimes it's a note for you to get or an idea for you to get and bang up against and figure out why it doesn't work or why it does work. Like if somebody gives you an idea, that doesn't mean it's what you have to do, right? It can feel that way because this person knows more than I do. They have more experience. They've been through this so many times, but sometimes it really is just like, ugh, why? And then you can make a better choice for your project.
Yeah, again, that's such a great word, choice, right? Like it's their version. It might be their passion, all of which is valid. It just may not be yours. And the only person who can assess that is you. I mean, don't use it as an excuse not to take a note. Anything we say today about voices.
Here's the needle. We're going to thread it.
Right? Like anything we say today, you can't use as an excuse just not to take a note. But in terms of, often, you can get confused over. And, I'm sorry, sometimes you've asked a person who has not great motive. they're jealous of you, and that is truly self-sabotage. And you know this person, it can be mean, or then that's again your choice. Why are you making that choice for yourself? Sometimes after all those voices come in, it can be very overwhelming, right? Like you went out and you got your 10 reads on your script, and that's 10 voices coming at you, and there's a range of them. Those voices now are in your head, right? Which can start an echo chamber, right? Like they were outside of you. You've got them on a video, a voice recorder, like because that's what Lauren and Meg told you to do. But now they're in your head, right? So my first advice about those voices is to get it on paper. Really get it out for yourself as objective facts, a list, engine parts, right? Story engine parts, whatever you can do to kind of get it out of the subjective, emotional, oh my God, I suck voices in my head, and really just look at it like a mechanic, right? Like you're a story mechanic, right? Here came the diagnostics, right? So try to get it out. You might need time to mulch. You might need those voices to be kind of like fine wine, just to now use another metaphor, where they just need time to brew inside of you. That's okay too. I find that hard for me personally because I can get tweaked.
What do you mean?
Well, the voice is in my head can tweak me, and sometimes I don't even know why I'm getting tweaked. I just know I'm hooked. I just know my emotions got up, or they've said something that I'm actually afraid of, or something that is a hook. Like, let's say, you're writing about a character this age, but you're not that age. You're much older. Maybe you're not modern, or, like that might tweak me, because then, of course, I have a whole, thing in my head about humans are humans and whatever, but I got a little tweaked by that. Mm-hmm. So I can also start to project. I think you can start to project onto the person giving the voice, giving you the note, and you don't even realize it, but suddenly you've made them into something else, into a different voice. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is going to sound a little bit weird, but the voice coming at you is literally just your good friend who had this issue, but suddenly it's also taking on the tone of your mother or whatever.
Right, and then you've implanted that inside, in your head.
Yes.
And that's a third, right? There's your voice, then there's the note giver, and then it's become this, you're haunted by your actual life and all that. So you're getting triggered, right? That's what
you can get tweaked and triggered, and I find that that's really the other kind of voices I wanted to talk about, right? So there's people giving you notes, right? And then there's the social voice out in the world that's coming at you, in terms of what society says you can do or can't do with the story. Or even just deeper things that are unconscious. Like I was watching a cooking show with a very well-known chef who will remain nameless, who went to Naples, and he was eating margarita pizza in Naples. And somebody asked him, where do you think the name Margarita comes from? And he says, basically, well, I'm going to tell you, I'll just make up the story. Let's make it up. She was a very well-known prostitute around town, and she was really good at giving head. Basically what he says. And then these men laugh and they just keep going. And I was like, what? Whoa. But that the social fabric was that a woman who had a pizza named after her must have been a whore. It was so disempowering, right, and so casual and so woven in the threads of so many other things that I literally stopped the TV and looked at my husband and was like, did you hear that? And he was like, what? And I was like, and I repeated it, and he was like, oh my God. Like, you have to catch it. You have to catch the voices coming at you sometimes, because you don't even realize you're writing a certain way or believing certain things, because there's a social thread going through that you've learned unconsciously, and all you have to do is start getting aware of it, right? Like, that was very disempowering to women. It was very much about where women need to be. And by the way, I'm sure this chef has no idea he said that, and he may hold none of those values, because I am talking about a social thing, which then can also go down into the voices coming from family, right? Mm-hmm. Like I said, like that voice suddenly becomes your mother. So like you have these voices in your head all the time, right? Like my father's voice was always about responsibility. You have to be responsible. Most important thing is be responsible, and I grew up with that, and I have this constant voice about responsibility, and I have to be responsible, and it does bleed into my writing in good ways, in that I'm always deadline oriented. I feel very responsible if somebody's paying me something, that I do my very best, and all of that was great stuff in that voice in my head. But there's a dark side to it too, right? In terms of, it's this hammer I use to beat myself down. And it really took me to realize that I was doing that, and to realize, wait a minute, inside the word responsible is the word response. I can have a response to things. It's my choice, right? It's not something that I have to do. It's something I'm choosing to do. I can also choose to stop doing it. You know what I mean? Like, but that voice was so woven into my being that it takes some time to even hear the voice, and that it's not a part of you. Like somebody said to me once, and it really changed my life, you know, all the voices in your head may not be right. Just because they're in your head does not mean that what they're telling you is right.
And knowing that and being able to process that are like worlds apart,
Huge.
right?
Yes.
Like I can know that what I need to do is silence the voices in my head and do the work. But those voices can bottom me out, right? Not good enough. For me, it's not good enough, right? And if you try, even if you try your best, you might still fail, right? Like and I don't know if that's fear of failure or fear of success. I haven't figured that one out yet. But
it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
It's like you're, as usual, combo the ladder.
Yeah, but sort of being aware, being, you know, as my therapist likes to say, mindful of it, doesn't fix it. That's a whole other bag of work.
Well, but being aware, especially because a lot of these things that we're talking about right now are unconscious, right?
Yeah.
There are things that you learn, voices that have come up to you through your childhood. It doesn't have to be your parents. It could be teachers. It could be coaches. It could be on television, like this chef, like 2 nights ago saying this, right? Like,
which I laughed at when you said.
Hey. We said we were going to do the wings tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. But honey. It's exhausting. She has like this seasonal depression thing.
right? Because I'm so enculturated in the sort of male gaze patriarchal joke at women's expense, and that's a little. So I felt a little uncomfortable when you told that, but I giggled because that's how I've been conditioned to respond to stuff like that. And then
it does affect you and your view of women. It's how you're going to write female characters unconsciously.
Yeah.
And those unconscious beliefs, all you have to do at first is try to get aware of them. Honest to God. Just be aware of them is a huge step, because when you shine light on it, now your intellectual brain and the rest of your being can come in and analyze it and think about it. And do you agree? I mean, there's a great woman, her name is Byron Katie, and her whole thing is, here's what you say when you become aware of it. Is that true? That's what you ask. Is that true? Right? So if I do this, I'm just going to fail. Is that true? Well, no, of course not. There's no way you can know that. So it helps kind of knock that belief into its spot, which is, okay, that's a belief. Thank you very much. I hear you. It's not fate. It's not reality. It's a belief coming up. So I'm going to keep moving. Now, sometimes you cannot get words to what it is. You just feel it in your body. This happens a lot when I'm writing or getting notes or, getting nervous about pitching or whatever. Like there's a million times as an artist, this feeling will just come up like a gripping in me or a heaviness, right? If that's happening, just feel it in your body as a thing. Like, don't even put words towards it. And think about, where is it in your body? Is it solid? Is it mushy? Think about the texture of it. What you're trying to do is just get some space between you and it, that is not you. This is a feeling. This is an unconscious thing. If you can just get 5 degrees of space between you and it, 1 degree of space between you and it, just get a crack of light. Don't try to get rid of it. Don't judge it, because guess what? That's just going to make it bigger. So just, awareness is a really great thing. And then I just also really wanted to say to you guys something that I did in a very difficult time in my life when the voices were very, very loud, outside and inside. I did this thing. I love morning pages. We've talked about that before. Please do morning pages. That's going to help get the voices out onto the page, so they're not mixing up your writing. They're not getting in and writing. They're out on the page. Get them away from you and the writing, which is sacred space. And I was talking to Lorian, like, maybe if you can write in one place that the phone isn't allowed there, phone calls aren't allowed there, the voices from the outside are not allowed in that physical space, that your body knows this is sacred space for your voice, no other voices. But the other thing that I did when I had this hard time is, and I just did this out of instinct, is I turned off all the lights and I sat in the dark with a pen and paper, and I just asked the question that I had in my heart, and I just free wrote the answer. I just let my hand write the answer, and it wrote, and I couldn't even read what I was writing, you guys. It was pitch black. I don't even know if I could read it now. But I knew, and it kind of answered me, and it just said, ultimately, stay in the boat. Don't get out of the boat. Which was like, this is scary. I get it. Stay in the boat. Stay in the boat. Stay in the boat. And it really, was that my higher self answering me? Probably, right? It was that bigger, ageless part of you that knows you're okay, and that you've been subsumed by this other voice. It's the you coming to talk to the voice, right? Like, whatever you can do to try to get yourself grounded, so that you don't get yourself mixed up with that voice. Be that, again, the voice is coming in for notes, the voice is in your head that you're scaring yourself with. Just try to get yourself some space, so that you can really look at it objectively as you can. I mean, we're not Buddha, but that's what meditation is. Meditation is trying to help you get that space, right?
There's also the voices of very real people in your life. People who might be like vomiting negativity at you. There's people who believe in you and will say, we believe in you, we love you, no matter what, do this, we'll create the space for you to do it. And then there are the people who send either mixed messages or confusing messages or really negative messages,
or super passive aggressive. Yes. Where you're like, wait a minute, I don't even think that was very nice.
Right. And I think a lot of artists hear this from parents who want them to go to business school or be successful in some way. That is a sort of cliche version, but there are versions of that artists hear their whole lives, right? Like I get a lot of, how are you making a living? Because it's not a traditional way. You sell a show, you make a lot of money, then you don't sell a show for a while. You have to live off that money. But from the outside world, it looks like you're just home in your basement.
Well, and that's
right?
so funny because like a voice could also be a look on someone's face too, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you start reading into the looks, and I mean, at some point, in terms of family's different, but in terms of those voices that are around you, you do again. It has to come back to you and your choice. It's your life. You're building it. Nobody else is building this. So why are those people in your life?
Yeah, and that was.
And I understand if it's your parents, but other than that, and even then, to be honest with you, even then, you might have to take a break.
Yeah.
You might have to take a loving break if it is really chipping away at you, and it's a voice that is not feeding you and nourishing you. You have to ask why you're allowing it in your life. What are you getting out of that? Because sometimes you get out of that voice feeding your life a victim power that means you don't have to try, right? Or whatever. And again, I'm not trying to psychoanalyze anybody. I'm just trying to think of why would you keep a voice like that in your life? Of course, yes, family obligations sometimes are much more complex and hard to deal with. But in general, I think even with family, you have to ask, what voices are you surrounding yourself with? And I think tribe is so important. So important to have positive voices around you that are telling you to keep going and can see you, right? Like sometimes I get lost and I can't see myself and the voices have gotten too loud. I once called Lorian from a CVS because the voice.
Did you butt dial me that day? Was it like a
it was like an unconscious dial tone. The voice got so loud, like guys, it got really loud in my head, and it was a specific person. And her voice got in my head, and it was bad. And I ended up walking around the CVS talking to Lorian. And it just really helped have somebody reflect on reality back to me versus what it is. And, sometimes the person can say to you, how old are you? Because you've fallen into this place of that your young self is up. And it's like, you know what? No, you're this old. You're in the CVS. You're fine. You're amazing. She's this. That voice is this. That voice's motive is this. Can you see it? Can you see what she's trying to do? Whatever that is. And you need that reflection back and that you're great or whatever it is.
Oh, guess we're getting rid of the crest. It sucks to leave 2 portraits, but it's probably the right thing to do right now. Gotta make sure the antiquarian is always selected here, so I use the right person with the right interactables. Nice! We surprised them. Okay. This isn't gonna be great regardless, though.
Their formation is broken.
Not bad, not bad.
Maintain the offensive.
If I can stun the swine spawn, I'm gonna be pleased about that, and I am pleased about that. There's also a 100% chance. It's just that the swine spawn could have dodged. By marking here, I increase the chance that the large corpse either tries to attack them. Nope. Oh, you marked another target. Damn it. Stop not attacking the right target. Stop having it be closed. I'm going to give everyone dodge. A little bit terrified. Nice. Oh, no! I don't even get to kill you. Play it. 22 is a hell of a lot of damage there. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Target the right people, damn it! And by the right people, I mean the wrong people. For you. For me, all right.
Great is the weapon that cuts on its own.
Start rolling those bleeds there. Definitely going group heals now. On. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop!
Kind of a whiny bitch.
Dismas doesn't do enough damage to deal with this. Alright, large corpse eater's probably dead. Yeah. Bumper.
The bigger the beast, the greater the
Oh
glory.
my god. It's a lot of heirlooms. Like, we would have 6 portraits by now, which is, I need not tell you, pretty significant. We're getting very close to the end of the lifetime usefulness for heirlooms, though, so not too bad. To miss out on those is what I'm saying. Okay. Not great. Swine Marcher. Yeah? I mean, roll a 9 or a 10 as well as hit the bleed. Or crit. Crit works too.
Destroy.
Crit actually works a lot because now the Swine Spawn is in a position where I can hit them with a stun. Which is always nice. Thank you. Like, the whole point of Dismas is to be able to do this. Wow. I got pushed. Did I also get stunned there? No. Because hard noggin. Unfortunately, I also no longer have the ability to... Oh, wow, she just passed her turn for the inadequacy. Damn you. Stop critting targets that are already dead, damn it! Crit targets that aren't dead. Nice, thank you for missing. Group heal. It's the best I can do for the frontliner here. Ugh.
To a killing blow.
I don't know what's happening. Like, they are not respecting the marks at all.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles.
Respect the marks, damn it! We'll do the stress heal there. This was for a lot. Ooh. Not bad, not bad. Stop it! Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it! Hit the Dismas! Whole point of the whole party. If you don't do it, this doesn't work. Or the Antiquarian. You know, you have a choice.
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
Nice exact damage crit there for the kill.
Seize this momentum. Push on to the task's end.
Never coming back this way, so we'll unlock it before we leave. Definitely want to start another gold stack. I think it's time to get rid of the bandages now. Didn't see any bandage interactables yet. Now, I'm still yet to get a permanent buff. So I think if I see a interactable that would give me a permanent buff... 1 second, while I just... Absolutely certain they choose the right target. If I happen to see an interactable that would give me a permanent buff, I think I'll rest before it and then get the buff.
A momentary abatement.
Okay. I'm happy with exactly half of their attacks. Definitely just blow the first one up. Would love to kill the second one with a Jester. Never mind, I forgot. You actually have Dirt Stab available right now. That said, in this area, you should probably have Harvest instead. Dirt Stab was useful there, but that doesn't make it the correct decision. Perfect. That contains loot of the everything variety. Not bad. Got 2 rare antiques as well. Nice. Woo! No scouting though. Dirty pool.
Watch your step.
Hunger? 2 traps? I didn't know you could have 2 traps directly in a row. I hate that we didn't get scouting to the only corridor that had 2 traps. Like, what up? And we didn't dodge either of them. That's bad luck right there. Salvage the unburnt torch.
Laden with loot, are often low on supplies.
And then we'll curl around the outside. I would have felt a lot better had that crit. Or had that hit. You have an accuracy trinket. That's the most annoying thing about this. Dismas keeps missing, but you have the biggest accuracy trinket I have the capability to give you. Stop missing. It's really, really frustrating.
Masterfully executed.
Next is going to be a stress heal on yourself, definitely. Thank you for hitting. Actually going to finish that. Nice. Moved him and stunned him. It's really unfortunate. Thankfully, I did use the repulse last turn, so it'll still be up.
The slow death, unforeseen, unforgiving.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense, I guess. I think I want to cheat out a couple rounds here so that I can get some healing. Hopefully the Vestal goes next. Deal. And
So, you have a movie for me? Yes, sir, I do. It's based on a book series about vampires. Oh, vampires are extremely cool. Yeah. Not these ones, though. Oh, they're not? No, they're not. You know how vampires, turn to dust when they're exposed to sunlight? Yeah. Well, these ones sparkle like beautiful little diamonds. Okay. What about mirrors? Do they, show up in mirrors? Yep, these ones certainly do, sir. They seem to be quite amused by them in certain instances as well. Wow, okay. Do they do, the basic vampire thing of sucking blood out of people? No, these ones try... So, you have a Twilight movie for me? Yes, sir, I do. Amazing. Final book, final movie? It's all very exciting. Well, actually, I thought we could squeeze 2 movies out of the final book. Really? Can we do that? Harry Potter did it. Yeah, that's true. There was a lot going on in the final Harry Potter book, though. Is there enough content in the final Twilight book to make 2 movies? Not really, no. So why would we? Well, because of money. Oh, money! That's the thing that I like! It sure is, sir. So what's going to happen in part 1 of this thing? Not much. Oh, really? Yeah, basically Edward and Bella are going to get married, so that's going to take about 30-40 minutes. Oh, incredibly slow pace. Yeah. Is there any conflict or drama or anything like that? Not really, no. Well, at a certain point, Jacob is going to come out of the woods as a surprise for Bella. Well, why didn't he just show up to the wedding like a normal person? What a weirdo. Oh, you have no idea. He's going to get real weird real soon. Uh-oh. Anyway, Bella tells him that her and Edward plan on getting, intimate before she even becomes a vampire, and so Jacob gets really mad. Right, isn't that incredibly dangerous? Doesn't that go against everything Edward's been saying about trying to protect Bella? Yeah, but we need something in this movie, so characters are just gonna kind of do stuff. And why can't they just wait until after she's turned into a vampire? Well, because they need to go on their honeymoon, right? And she doesn't want to spend that time in pain turning into a vampire. Well, people can have their honeymoon whenever they want. It doesn't have to be immediately after the wedding. But we're gonna have it be immediately after the wedding, because otherwise there's literally no story here. Well, okay then. So anyway, they go to this private island, and the next 40 minutes is gonna be them on their honeymoon. Just kind of, being on a honeymoon. They play a lot of chess. Oh, really stretching it thin here. Oh, so thin, sir. The thinnest. Wow. Anyway, so then Bella's gonna end up getting pregnant. What? Isn't Edward dead? He is, yeah. Aren't all his bodily fluids venom? They are venomous, yeah, for sure. It feels like that doesn't make sense. Well, we're gonna pretend like it makes sense, because otherwise there's literally no story here. Alright, do what you gotta do, man. So anyway, then this baby inside Bella starts growing super fast, and it's killing her. I mean, she's way wasting away. There's nothing but a skeleton left. Oh, very spooky. She has a skeleton inside of her. Well, yeah, I mean, everybody does. Oh, can you imagine? Very spooky. Anyway, so it really seems like this baby's gonna kill Bella before it's even born, but then they give her some blood in a sippy straw, and she's like, yum, yum, yum. What? Oh, also the werewolves are mad now, because they think this baby's gonna be a threat to them, so they want to kill it. Why would they? That Bella's also the werewolves are mad now because they think this baby's inside of her. Well, yeah, I mean, everybody does. Oh, can you imagine? Very spooky. Anyway, so it really seems like this baby's gonna kill Bella before it's even born, but then they give her some blood in a sippy straw, and she's like, yum, yum, yum. What? Oh, also the werewolves are mad now because they think this baby's gonna be a threat to them, so they want to kill it. Why would they think that? Well, because new vampires have a hard time controlling their thirst. Okay, they're aware that Bella's also gonna be turned into a vampire, right? They are, yeah, but that's different. How? Well, she's the main character. Oh, right, okay. Anyway, so eventually Edward has to give Bella a C-section using his teeth for some reason, and he injects her with his venom, but it really looks like she's dead. Oh, bummer. And Jacob is so mad he decides to kill the baby, but as soon as he makes eye contact with it, he's like, oh, what? Yeah, he immediately imprints on a newborn. He's like, oh, are we gonna kiss right now? I don't like that. Oh, don't worry, sir. It's not weird at all, because Jacob's going to help raise the child before getting romantically involved with it. I mean, you know that that's somehow worse, right? You know that. Okay, sir, but you have to remember what? Money. Oh yeah, money. Okay, yeah, no, yeah, I'm back into this. Okay, good. So the Wolfman will raise the baby and then sleep with it, and our teenage audience will pay to come watch that. Okay, keep going. Well, okay, so then Bella's gonna turn into a vampire, and then we cut to credits. Very exciting. And then as a mid-credit scene, we're gonna have the Volturi vampires be like, oh, we're gonna be in the next movie. Watch out. We literally keep ending movies that way. We do, but this time it's true. Oh, well, great. So what happens in part 2? Well, Bella's a vampire now, and she's going to run around the woods with Edward looking to hunt. How do you think we'll be able to improve those terrible running effects we've been doing? No need, sir. People will have already paid for the tickets, and it's the last movie. That's a good point. Why bother? Let's save some money. But then Bella's going to smell a human, and she's going to have to fight her newborn vampire instincts to try and not kill this guy. Oh, is that going to be hard for her to do? Actually, it's going to be super easy. Barely an inconvenience. Oh, really? Yeah, she's able to repress those urges immediately. Didn't we say it takes most vampires decades to do that? We did, yeah, but she's the main character, so she's special. That makes sense. So then she's gonna meet her baby for the first time, which I figure we could do entirely in CGI. Yeah, sounds like that might haunt people's dreams a little bit. You know, there's definitely a risk of that, but I still think we should go ahead and just make this thing on a computer, see what happens. Works for me. So anyway, then the Volturi are gonna get word that this baby exists, and they're gonna think that it's something called an immortal child. What's an immortal child? It's like a vampire baby that's really powerful. We're gonna be pretty vague about it, but they want it dead for sure. Is it an immortal child? It's not, no. So then the Cullens go around the world and gather up a bunch of vampire friends, and all these people have different superpowers. Oh, they do? They do, yeah. There's one with the power of electricity, there's one with elemental control powers. This is just gonna straight up be an X-Men movie now, because there's not really anywhere else for the story to go. Oh, suddenly becoming X-Men is tight. So all these vampires come and train with the Cullens, and then it turns out that Bella has the power to shield people. That's why Edward was never able to read her mind. But Alice was able to see her future, and Jasper was able to affect her mood. Please don't think about any of this too much. Oh, okay, my bad. So then there's gonna be this big showdown in the snow between the Volturi and the good vampires and some werewolves. And how does that go? Well, the main Volturi guy, he cuts Carlisle's head off. Oh, he does? Yeah, and this big giant fight breaks out. Jasper gets decapitated. A bunch of Volturi lose their heads too. One of the X-Men creates this big hole in the earth. A bunch of them fall into lava. Did this movie just get good? And then Edward and Bella, they take down the main Volturi guy, and they cut his head off too, and Bella goes to set it on fire. I think this movie just got good. And then it turns out it was all just a vision that Alice was showing the main Volturi guy, so you know, none of it happened. What are we doing here, man? Money. Oh, right, money. Okay, yeah, no, I love it. Yeah. But didn't we say that Alice wasn't able to see visions with werewolves around? Please don't think about this too much. Oh, right, I keep thinking about things. I need to not do that. Yeah, and so Bella and Edward live happily ever after, and Jacob gets to hook up with the child he helped raise. Money. And so what do you think? Well, you know, I think the Twilight books have definitely spawned as many movies as they possibly can, and it's probably best that nothing else comes of them. I don't see how anything else could come of them, sir. Hi, it's Ryan here. Thanks for watching that pitch meeting. I hope you liked it. And hey, while you're on the internet, why not check out Screen Rant's Behind the Screen pod?
You're not dead to your bleed yet, so I could kill you. Or I could try and take another round. I'm going to try and take another round. As long as they target the Vestal or the Jester, yeah, we get that round. Cool. Sorry, we're not getting any stress recovery in this round, but that's okay. I just want the recovery. And then the enemy dies dead bleed. Gotta make sure I don't move myself back, otherwise the Vestal won't have the ability to heal. Cool. Yeah, we're in a much better position having stalled that extra round there.
This is how a life is taken.
Alright, I think by now we would have seen something that interacts with Holy Water if we were going to use the Holy Water, so we'll start a stack. Gold. I love gold. Oy. Yowzers. Alright. Can't get the back line, but do need to set the riposte up, so rough life. Someone's gonna live it. I hate that they just always attack my midliners, despite the fact that that is the absolute worst thing for me. They somehow know that and commit to it. Nice, we did actually buy ourselves an extra turn there. Crit! Oh. Where's all your crits as well, Dismas? You got... Dismas actually has a 25% chance to crit, so the fact that Dismas is not critting 25% of the time is scandalous. Stop not critting! Crit! I'll forgive you because you killed anyway. 6 to 13 rolls the 13 in terms of damage. That's not bad. 5 to 8 rolls the 8. Didn't get the bleed though. Beacon Prey is nice. Low in terms of its damage, so could be a lot worse.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call it.